Hi, good morning, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your job is not an easy one. I find that almost anyone in behavioral health has a specific reason and a story of how they got here.
Mhm.
Would you mind sharing yours?
I don't mind sharing mine. I, like many people, kind of fell into behavior analysis. And so I often start my story is I got here because I got kicked out of college, which for me has a great ending and is not really how I think my parents would love for my story to start. But that's the reality. I was a college student. I was always academically inclined. And so it was actually kind of effortful for me to, to get kicked out, if I'm being honest. But I was not happy. I didn't love what I was doing. I was a business and marketing major, which actually serves me quite well now, but I was really miserable. I asked my parents a couple of times if I could take a gap year, to which they were like, no, 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 no. And so I went about my world, which at that point, I've been in behavior analysis now going on 23 years. And so I was very happily going on Fish Tour and seeing concerts and doing what I wanted to do. And the university wasn't particularly excited about that. And so they were like, you actually have to go to class to be enrolled. And so my parents said, you're either going to go to college or you need to get a job. And I was like, great, I'll get a job. And so I stayed with my friends and I applied for a job in the paper working at the time was called the Center for the Disabled, which is not still the title of the facility in Albany, New York. And I went in and was like, I love kids, and ended up getting a job working in an intensive needs preschool classroom with nonverbal aggressive kids with autism. And it quite frankly shaped the entire future of my life. I've been in the field ever since. And so yeah, that's how my journey started.
Wow, wow. So you could have been in marketing, and instead you chose much, much, much harder career.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly there
Oh,
are days that I am in marketing, right?
yeah, of
And
course.
some of that actually it all worked out well for me in the end. Albeit my parents maybe would have selected a different route, you know.
Yeah.
I think my mom often said like if there's an easy way and the hard way, Jen takes the hard way, but it's always paved with like my kind of spirit and tenacity for what I want to do versus what other people might want from me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what have you found is the hardest part of growing your organization, growing your team?
Oh man. Well, there's a few hard parts. I think there's the logistical hard parts, right? Which are we live where we are is rural communities, and so by that, the population of behavior analysts and behavioral folks is not. We're not in a city, right? There are not there. You could do a search of 50 miles from here, and you might get 10 behavior analysts, which is like not true for many other parts of the country. And so I would say that's one hard part. The personal hard part, though, for me has been you can be the villain in a lot of people's stories, right? And so as a business owner, you are the deliverable on things that people don't always want to hear. And that I think personally has probably been one of the hardest things is that how do you stay true to your clinical values, right? Your values as a human being with wanting to be compassionate and a human first, and also setting clear boundaries for business. And so I think those are the two things that I, on a regular basis, probably face.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very, very well said, is that you can be the villain to other people while you're still trying to do your good work.
Yeah.
That that makes complete sense, and I've had to be that myself, and that is probably the hardest part of being a business owner in general. And I think
Yeah.
almost any business owner out there can understand that concept.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how did the concept of Sprout NBC come to life?
Oh man. So I am somebody who mulls things over. I don't generally make impulsive decisions. And so it came to light in a couple of different ways. When it truly came to light was a 2:30 in the morning wake up that all of a sudden the vision that I had been mulling over in my head felt so clear. The name was clear, the vision was clear. But it came to light when I was in my master's program. I had to do a project on education. And so my master's is in special ed and ABA and on education. And I have a strong interest in social justice. And so when I was doing my project, and I live in a rural community, and service disparities in my own community, what one child has on one side of town versus what the other child has on the other side of town is significantly different. And so I did my project on the service disparities in rural communities. And that's where it really started was, okay, as a behavior analyst, I was already on my own consulting and folks were like, we need more help. We need more help. And so the vision for Sprout came to be in that we very intentionally set up in communities that are underserved, under-resourced. Many people are living at or below the poverty line, which was a very intentional business decision, was to meet the needs of these communities where there are children who already have cards stacked against them that then can't get the services that they need. And so that's really how it came to be, was like, have this ability, right? I have this training and I can give back to the community that I live in and see other kids be successful because of this beautiful science that we have. And so that's how it started. And so what started as just me grew into now we have 2 clinic locations. We provide home, school, and clinic services. And then our clinics, both of them are intentionally set up in communities that don't otherwise have the resources. They're absolutely not affluent communities. They're communities of regular, everyday, I wouldn't even say middle class folks if we had to put them into that class system. And again, very intentionally about wanting to meet that need in the communities.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a very, I can see the passion that you have, which is awesome. And I'm sure it makes the hard days easier because you have a focus that's bigger than just making a profit at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah.
What do you see as one of the biggest gaps in training for BCBAs today, as someone who has multiple degrees and also practices?
This is one of my favorite questions, and is a hard question to answer because what we want for our field is for it to grow. We want new people to come in and love it as much as we do. And there is a significant practice to application, knowledge to application gap. So everyone has seen the bell curve from the BACB. And I always say the folks who live down here, right? I know we're on a podcast, but the folks who have been certified for 10 or more years is a significant minority in our field right now. And so one of those gaps is people who don't yet know how to practice are being tasked with supervising people and teaching other people how to practice. That's not right. A non-fluent responder shouldn't teach another non-fluent responder, right? And so there's a disproportional amount of differences in training, I would say, by those folks, not because they're not great. Yeah, they're great. But if you haven't been in the field for a while, you don't know what to do under all of these different circumstances. I've been certified going on 13 years, and I have circumstances that I don't know what to do, and I reach out to my mentors. And so I think that's one of them. And I think the other is the competing contingencies around providing that training. People are getting flyby supervision, check, 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 and we're not really teaching them how to be behavior analysts. And so I think that, and I understand why that exists. I'm a business owner. I absolutely understand the competing contingencies of how you earn and make money. But I do think it is something that our field is very richly experiencing right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a gap in any degree to then actual practice. It doesn't matter what your degree is in, right? There's always a significant gap between what's taught and the reality of practice. So that makes complete sense. And I think that is it's the hardest thing to address because what's needed is more experience. But why you need more experience is you need more people, but you can't have more people unless
or being more differential, right? And so in my practice, if you haven't been a behavior analyst for at least 5 years or haven't met full competency in that role, you cannot provide fieldwork supervision. We just don't allow that to happen because we want to make sure that we have a clinical apprentice position. We want to make sure our apprentices are trained adequately so that they feel competent when they receive their credentials.
That's awesome. Keeping the focus on high quality learning for your team as well.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And so we are a specialist marketing agency specializing in behavioral health. We have to ask some marketing questions, which given your background, I bet you'll enjoy anyway. How does your team go about gaining new clients right now? What is working well for you?
We pick up the phone. To be honest, we don't have to market our services. We don't market our services. If I'm being honest, it's actually an area that I probably could do quite better at. We're good at letting people know what we do and what we do well. And so our social medias highlights our amazing employees, how we practice, our compassionate care model, our, using precision, what we highlight is the quality of services that we provide. And then it's word of mouth. We live in small communities. And if you've ever lived in a small community, anyone who lives in a small community knows that who do you ask if you need somebody? You ask the person who's over here that is in the same position as you. And so the way that we market is by going out and doing really good work. The other way is at conferences, we market from the front of the room is what I like to tell my team is we go in and we're saying, hey, this is what we're doing that we think you could do too. We want to teach you how to do it, or like, here's what we do. And that demonstrates, our skills. But beyond that, we reach out, we create strong connections with our local school district and create strong connections with our local medical providers so that they know that we're here. We're here for you. We're here for your patients. We're here for your students. And we work very collaboratively, particularly with our school district, because, you don't always work collaboratively we do within our individual case collaborations. But as a team, we're very involved with the stuff at the local school district and keeping that connection really open.
Absolutely. Well, and those are often some of the best connections you can have anyway, right? Because those are who the parents are asking for resources often.
That's right. That's right. And it puts your face to the name, right? It's, oh,
Yep.
Jen, you own Sprout. That's right. Here, meet Jen, right? And so we think that's really the thing that I think goes the longest way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. So what is one marketing tactic or marketing process, something like that you're either watching really carefully in the marketplace or that you're actually considering for your team right now?
Changing the face of ABA. When you research ABA on the internet, there's a lot of stuff that shows up, right? And all warranted. Everyone's entitled to their own experience. And there's also a lot of really, really wonderful things that we're really not good at telling people that we do. And so that's something I'm monitoring closely, and something we try to be really intentional about is highlighting the work, the positive stories, the positive outcomes that learners have. The other thing I'm monitoring closely in marketing is people who come up with catchphrases for the kind of work that they do. Someone recently was like, do you provide contemporary ABA? I was like, I don't know what that means. So I don't actually know if I do that because I don't know what that means. And so that's something else that I closely monitor, is ensuring that our vision, our values, and what we're putting out there it's conducive to the terminology that people in and out of our field are using, and making sure that that's consistent. But also, again, just really highlighting that there's a lot of beauty in behavior analysis, and we got a kind of ugly history, right? And that gets to be fair and true. But if we spend as much time highlighting the good work we do as many people do trying to combat the naysayers, it would actually just go a lot further, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I think that people too often focus on the negative messages and try to combat the negative messages when all you need to do is share your actual story, and the truth is pretty quick and easy.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We'll leave it on that inspirational note. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing some of your insights.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime.
I would love that. Thank you.